Hi, and welcome back to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is January 19th, and we're going to hear part 2 today of the article that we started yesterday about the book King Solomon's Mines.
Now, King Solomon's mines were filled with diamonds. King Solomon was a very wealthy person. However, there's a whole lot of interesting and racial subtext to all of this.
Oh, by the way, we have to tell people, this is page 53, in case you need to know. Let's continue.
Page 53. And so number one, in the past, diamonds were valuable, but they fell out of favor for a while. So as I mentioned yesterday, in the 18th century, people thought diamonds were only found in India, but then they were found in Brazil and then later in South Africa. And diamonds became so common that the wealthiest just stopped caring about them. In fact, they started to move on to other gemstones. And this is why when you look at kind of England and the crown jewels, there's not so many diamonds. There's lots of emeralds. There are lots of sapphires and rubies because diamonds were just so common that nobody cared about them anymore.
But then De Beers came along.
In 1880, that's exactly right.
Manufactured scarcity.
That's exactly right. And the Englishman, Cecil John Rhodes, founded De Beers, and this was an organization designed to control the flow of diamonds to bring that price of diamonds back up. And so diamonds went from this, people used them as medicine. They used to actually eat them, and they would use to be cut metal. They actually became more valuable as just hey, look at this expensive rock I have. And that's where we're sitting currently today with diamonds.
And this monopoly is still going.
It's still going today. Although the De Beers group let go of most of their power, I would say I want to say it's close to 15 years ago at this point, but diamonds are still artificially expensive. They're actually not all that rare.
And they hit you at a time when you're very vulnerable. Now, we have some big life events. We have birth, and we have marriage, and then we have death. And at all those points, we are very vulnerable. That means it's easy for us to do some crazy things because it's such an important time, and we're really nervous and not thinking straight. So when you're getting married, you maybe want to show your girlfriend or your fiancé how much you love her by spending a lot of money on something. And that's how the diamond monopoly takes advantage of you when you don't really have the skills to fight back.
Yeah, my wife and I knew that we were a good fit for each other when we both realized we do not care at all about diamonds.
You do not care at all?
We do not care
at all?
None whatsoever. We'll skip that and just go right to the point. I spent less than $2,000 NT on our wedding rings, and we don't even wear them anymore. We just don't care about that stuff.
You didn't care at all. Okay, I expected Chris to appreciate this more than apparently he did. I don't care at all. That means it doesn't make any difference to me. It's not important to me. But carat is C-A-R-A-T, carat. And that is a measure of weight, telling you how heavy of a diamond is and therefore how valuable it is. And we usually use K, 15 or 24 karat gold or 14 karat gold. And we measure the weight of diamonds in carats. And Chris kept saying, I don't care at all. I don't care at all. And I thought that was
quality.
Such a good pun, and he didn't even laugh.
You guys probably know this word carat from the Bruno Mars song, 24 Karat Magic. That was popular several years ago. All right. There's one last little thing I want to talk about to kind of give context to the past 2 days. If these were King Solomon's mines, then they don't belong to the Africans, and therefore it's okay to take them from them.
Oh.
And for a long time, the Europeans just saw Africans as just less than human, even less than animals in many ways.
Let's add a little note here. When they were brought into the Americas to be slaves, they were not considered humans. They were considered property.
That's right.
They were bought and sold and everything as property.
And it's easy today to think that the richest people in history are alive today, but that is wrong. In fact, the richest person in history was actually from West Africa, and he lived in the 1300s. His name was Mansa Musa, and he ruled over the Mali Empire, and he was worth at least 500 billion American dollars, an incredible amount. His wealth was so large that when he traveled to Mecca, he was a Muslim, he actually just kept giving away gold to the point that he destroyed the economies as he went. But if Europeans are to believe that Africans were less than people, less than animals, then they needed to deny the existence of Mansa Musa. And for most of European history, the idea of this wealthiest person, wealthier than the richest emperors of China, could not exist.
And history is written by the people who win the wars.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go on to part 2 of King Solomon's mines. Now confined to the mine, the men begin looking for an alternative route out. They spot a trapdoor, and Quatermain manages to stuff some diamonds into his pocket before they head into the tunnels beneath the floor. They come across an underground river, but the current is too swift for them to safely make their way out. After heading in the opposite direction, they come to a maze of animal burrows. They follow this twisting route until they are back out in the open.
Quatermain and his men return to Loo and decide to head home shortly after. They head to the coast via a less hazardous route and are shocked and delighted to run across Neville, who informs them that he had been injured on his mission to find the mine and was unable to move beyond an abandoned hut located near an oasis that he found. The men assist the newly found Neville, and together they all eventually get to Durban. Once there, they board a series of vessels that will take them home.
The novel focuses on a number of themes, not all of which have aged well. The book offers views of colonialism and European superiority that would be considered outdated and incredibly racist nowadays. One thematic element that does hold up is the idea that materialism is a dangerous pursuit.
King Solomon's Mines is the most well-known work of British author Sir Henry Rider Haggard. In 1875, Haggard traveled to Africa, where he was employed as the secretary to the British governor of Natal. He held a few other posts before returning to England in 1879. In addition to writing novels, he also served on several agricultural commissions for the government.
Okay, and that's the end. And I have to say, it kind of ended with a whimper.
Yeah, I don't suspect that's the way our hero Quatermain would have ended his life.
Right. Whimper is spelled W-H-I-M-P-E-R. W-H-I-M-P-E-R, whimper. That means the original idiom is to end with a bang. End with a bang. That means it has a very strong, exciting ending. But if it's building up, there's a lot of action, and suddenly the ending is kind of ordinary, we say it kind of ended with a whimper.
Although it does lend credence to that idea we keep saying that these authors keep talking about their own lives. They explain what they know best. And we can see that our author, Sir Haggard, lived in South Africa, knew South Africa. Let's write a story about South Africa.
I don't know how you could have written a good book without that kind of firsthand experience. Back to the beginning. Now confined to the mine, the men begin looking for an alternative route out. So I guess they can't get back out through that secret trapdoor. They're not able to go back, and it's just very, very difficult to get out of this place that they've gotten into to get the wonderful diamonds. Confined to, that means they are stuck there. They can't go anywhere else. They're going to see if they can find some other way to get out of there, because they can't just stay there. They spot a trapdoor, and Quatermain manages to stuff some diamonds into his pocket before they head into the tunnels beneath the floor. So we can start to imagine that place. It's some kind of cave, but it's got more than one level. Under the floor, there are tunnels. So they see that there's a trap door. That means it's not very easy to see. It's small. It's not a regular door you use to get in and out of someplace. It's usually for some secret purpose. They take some diamonds because that is the wealth that they came for after all. So they just stuff them in their pockets, or at least Quatermain does. And then they know there are tunnels under the floor, so they head towards those tunnels.
I think this kind of reflects that greed that all humans have. It's like, no matter what, I just watched this Gagool woman get crushed by a door. We might die in here, but I'm going to take some diamonds
Get
too.
Those diamonds, that's right. I guess there are a lot of fables and fairy tales where the person tries to load themselves up with wealth and they find that they're too heavy to go where they're going.
Yeah, that is a movie trope, isn't it?
That's right. They come across an underground river, but the current is too swift for them to safely make their way out. And it's a good thing they noticed that, because a lot of rivers run really fast. And you may think, well, it's not really that wide, but if it runs really fast, it's so powerful, it will just swish you away and you're done for. Next sentence. After heading in the opposite direction, they come to a maze of animal burrows. Now, this is important because if animals can get in and out safely, we are just an animal. Maybe this will work for us too. A tunnel that an animal digs or makes is a burrow. So the animal burrows mean that animals have already found a way through here.
Burrow is a noun and a verb, so their little houses that they live in, that they build is a burrow, and they burrow meaning to dig. I felt this was a very colorful sentence. I don't know why, but I can see very distinctly in my mind these maze of animal burrows. I don't know what it is about the sentence, but I mean, the visual is very clear to me.
And I see some moles and gophers, too.
Yeah, it's like, but I don't know if I'd want to jump in those holes with them, but it does show that you can get in and out.
If I wanted to get out of a place where I was trapped, I would not have a second thought. I would try it. They follow this twisting route until they are back out in the open, and it succeeds. So the animals definitely have found a way in and out safely. They follow the animal burrows, and they succeed in getting out.
Our next paragraph begins Quatermain and his men return to Loo and decide to head home shortly after. Good idea.
Sounds like they've had enough.
Our next sentence begins, they head to the coast via a less hazardous route and are shocked and delighted to run across Neville, who informs them that he had been injured on his mission to find the mine and was unable to move beyond an abandoned hut located near an oasis that he found.
Oh, what a complex sentence.
It's hard to say, too.
At least they've only got one new character. But all of this detail about the place and where this person's living and who he is, it's a lot of information to absorb. Can you help us sort it out?
Okay, there's a lot. Number one, so they head to the coast via a less hazardous route or route. So they're going to go towards the ocean, and they're going to use a less dangerous road, which begs the question, which makes us all wonder, why didn't you do this in the first place? But perhaps
they didn't find it.
Maybe it's not easy. That's on a cliff or something. It's not easy to get up, but it would be easier to get down.
Or it may be very long.
That's true. So they are shocked and delighted to run across Neville, which, if you remember from day one, paragraph 1, we have Sir Curtis wants us to go find his lost brother, I believe. And that's the guy's name is Neville. And oh yeah, after this grand adventure, we also found this guy.
And this reminds me of another cliche, Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right? If you don't know what that's about, just input it in Google and you'll find out.
That's one of those big cultural touchstones. We all know it, probably not the context, but it's one of those things we all know.
That means when you're in a very remote place, you run into somebody who's like your neighbor from down the street. And you might say something like this. It's just in a very unexpected place, you run into somebody you know.
And an oasis is just some water, some grass and vegetation in an otherwise arid, A-R-I-D, or dry region. And it comes from us from a very long time ago. It begins as an Egyptian word, then it goes to Greek, then it goes to Latin, and then we end up with it in English and not changed terribly much, which I think is fascinating.
Right, and you said it's just a place with some water and grass. In the situation where you don't have enough to eat or drink, it's not just, it's, oh my gosh, we've got an oasis. Okay, to continue.
The men assist the newly found Neville, and together they all eventually get to Durban.
All right, Durban is a very important city in southern South Africa.
Once there, they board a series of vessels that will take them home.
Okay, and that's pretty straightforward. So they have found Neville. They go to Durban. They're going south. They're getting ready to get on the boat to go back to England. And once they are there in Durban, they get into a series of vessels. A vessel is something that holds something else. It's a container, but it's also a word for boats because boats and ships will hold people and they can move you. So they board a series of boats, of ships, that will bring them back home to England.
And make a point that this is strictly about boats. I sometimes have come across students that use vessels to mean automobile, meaning cars or trucks. And that's not accurate. A vessel is strictly on the water.
You can use it for a vase. Something that holds water, a water vessel.
Something that holds something else. But in terms of a moving vehicle, some type of device to take you from one place to another, we're talking water. We're not talking cars, trucks, trains, or airplanes. Those cars and trucks would be automobiles.
Right, or some kind of vehicle. So just boats and ships. Third paragraph, the novel focuses on a number of themes, not all of which have aged well.
It's an understatement.
It's an understatement, but that's a great idiom. So that means if you're looking at something that's kind of old and you think, wow, this stuff is so old-fashioned and out of date. At the time, it may have been very, very popular, but it hasn't aged well. That means it won't become popular again because it's all out of fashion.
Some people today would characterize this phrase as something has aged like milk. Milk spoils very quickly. You don't want to drink it. You'll get sick. And so something that hasn't aged well could also be expressed as has aged like milk. Yeah.
Bad cheese.
I was actually, one of my favorite comedians from my younger days died recently. And I was watching some of his, Norm Macdonald.
Oh.
And I was watching some of his news clips, and he was wearing this enormous tie from the 90s. And I did not realize how wide ties were in the 90s. And I don't wear especially thin ties, but I do wear a thinner tie. And I was looking at his tie, and I was thinking, it was almost like those ties you see clowns wear.
Oh, that's funny, but it's true.
That's right. And his look has aged very poorly. It didn't look good at all.
That's interesting because men's clothes change so little.
Right.
They're so conventional. I remember, if you ever look at early movies, films that you can still view, like from the 1900s, early 1900s, 1910, they still have a few. The men don't look so different from men now. They're still wearing trousers. They're still wearing shirts and jackets and ties.
Yeah.
It may be a slightly different type, but it's not that different from modern male garb. But if you look at the women, the fashion trends change so much, and you see people waddling along in these very long dresses. Oh my God, why are they wearing such long dresses? But women's clothes change a lot over the years, and men's hardly have. One of the few places they can change is how wide your tie is.
Yeah, maybe your lapel.
Lapel is the part of the jacket that folds over backwards on the two sides of your jacket. Lapel, L-A-P-E-L. I bet that's a word you didn't know. It's a good word to know, the lapel. There used to be broad lapels or narrower lapels. Those have changed over the years. The book offers views of colonialism and European superiority that would be considered outdated and incredibly racist nowadays. But let's be honest here. This stuff still goes on. If you look at the politics of the U.S., a lot of people have these same views, and they will say them out loud.
Yeah, it was something that people would maybe perhaps try to hide a while ago. Not today. There is still historical value in understanding the psychology of the people from this period, and even the bad stuff, the European superiority, the racist views. Understanding where those views come from is valuable. The idea of European superiority came from two main ideas. One being Charles Darwin and evolution, and then that therefore some animals must be better in some way to another. That's right, in order for you to succeed. And then our other person would be Carolus Linnaeus, who was interested in taxonomy. Taxonomy is the science of kind of putting things into categories. So there's, different kinds of apes. There are different kinds of dogs, et cetera, et cetera.
Plants.
And different kinds of plants. And people were also categorized this way, but people didn't fully understand these sciences correctly. And so they just kind of went at it. Like, well, Europeans, because we're the Europeans, are the best. And then there are the noble savages, quote unquote, Asians, and then American Indians, and then all the way on the bottom, way on the bottom, were Black Africans. And that's kind of one of the ideas you see here and reflected upon the views of the people writing these books.
We all think we're better. I mean, it's just the way we're designed. We think we're better than other people as individuals and as our group. But the people who have literacy and science, they're going to be dominant. And that's how they did it, through literacy and science. And these African cultures did not have writing.
Right around this period this book was written, the Society of Zimbabwe was discovered. Now, there's a country in Africa called Zimbabwe. It used to be called Rhodesia,
Rhodesia is right. Yep.
Rhodesia.
Yeah.
And there was this massive city that could hold about 20,000 people, and it was made of these humongous stones. And when Europeans came across them, they could not believe that Africans had built this. They said, well, maybe it was built by Solomon, or maybe it was the Arabian traders. Maybe it was built by the white famous ruler Prester John of Ethiopia. Anybody but these Black Africans. And they insisted this was not the work of Africans. But if you were to look up the word for stone in the local language, it was Zimbabwe.
Oh, that's interesting.
The evidence was there the whole time. They were not willing to accept it.
Okay, I have a special feeling for Zimbabwe. We did a lesson quite a while ago about the thumb piano, the imbira.
Oh.
And that is the national instrument, basically, of Zimbabwe. And it has thousands of years of tradition. It's beautiful music, so if you didn't listen to that then, just go on to YouTube and type in Imbira, M-B-I-R-A, Imbira, and that is a beautiful, beautiful musical tradition of Zimbabwe.
I did my student teaching on Zimbabwe, actually.
Oh, interesting.
Robert Mugabe I was a AP teacher, yeah.
That's a whole other story. Our last sentence of the paragraph, one thematic element that does hold up is the idea that materialism is a dangerous pursuit. Did everybody hear that?
Yeah, so we have two isms here, which is really important to know once you get to that advanced level of English. A few sentences up, we have colonialism and then materialism. There are many a person that would decry the use of isms. It's a belief in something or a society or person. I don't know. They're pretty useful words. Materialism means that you have this strong love of things.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, cars, houses.
Stuff is a really good word here because I said things and then Karen kind of plays it down by saying stuff, which feels less important. Junk.
It's just a lot of things, and in the end, they're just a bunch of atoms stuck together and they're empty inside. And it's kind of ironic because they talk about King Solomon's mines and he was so wealthy. And in the end, he found that materialism leads you nowhere. He ended up feeling very empty about materialism. Our last paragraph.
King Solomon's Mines is the most well-known work of British author Sir Henry Rider Haggard. That's a cool name.
I guess it is. Sir always makes you think like he is very, very special, very respected.
Like Sir Henry, but then you're also got Rider and you also got Haggard. Those are all awesome.
And you've got Sir McCartney.
Yeah, all of these are just excellent names.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's continue. In 1875, Haggard traveled to Africa where he was employed as the secretary to the British governor of Natal.
All right, Natal is a province of South Africa. If you don't know about that, you can look that up. So he did go to Africa, saying that he did know what he was writing about. He actually lived and worked there. What was his job? He was secretary to the Brit who was governing Natal. So they had established a colony there, and they were governing it, and he was secretary to the governor of this province, Natal.
He held a few other posts before returning to England in 1879.
Does this sentence give us a lot of exciting information?
No.
So what's happening now is we've already hit the climax, and I think that materialism is a dangerous pursuit. That was really a pretty strong sentence. And from that point on, we're just kind of looking at some biographical details about the author, and somehow they're nowhere near as exciting as his stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was secretary to the governor, and then, he had a few more jobs. Yeah, that's very unspecific. We don't know what jobs. And then a year, and I tend to edit out years. I don't pay attention. 1879. Okay, big deal. And then finally,
in addition to writing novels, he also served on several agricultural commissions for the government, which also sounds super boring.
It's really flat because you think, excuse me, I don't mean to offend anybody now, but, I work for the Council of Agriculture. We'll go, good, you have a very secure job. So the ending falls kind of flat. It's useful information. Honestly, if it were me, I might have put it in somewhere else. But there's an argument to be made for starting strong and ending strong. So maybe they could have put this in the middle somewhere. At the beginning, we need something strong to get the reader's or the listener's attention. At the end, we want to go out with a bang and not with a whimper. But in the end, this is still useful information.
Yeah, it's still a great swashbuckling story. Swashbuckling is a word that kind of talks about an adventure, usually pirates, but also any kind of adventure. And it's nice to see where these ideas come from. I personally like these contexts, but I do agree that it's just kind of like, hey, he did some jobs.
Yeah.
It's okay. Hey.
Well, if you like mystery and adventure, excitement, and something exotic, you might want to have a look at King Solomon's Mines. And that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.